So have you ever wondered what the real difference is between a startup that crashes and burns and one that just takes off? Well, it's not just about the idea. It's really about the blueprint. Today, we're going to unpack the architectural secrets that help turn a simple concept into a company that can truly scale.
Okay, let's just jump right into the big question. What is the secret to building a successful startup? I mean, we all hear about these brilliant world-changing ideas, but is that really the whole story? Turns out, the answer has a lot more to do with having the right structure right from the very beginning.
And yeah, that is the whole point right there. An idea is just the spark. The blueprint, though, that's what lets you build something that actually lasts. Think about it like this. You wouldn't just start digging a foundation for a skyscraper without a detailed architectural plan, would you? The exact same logic applies when you're building a company.
So, let's start with the most critical part, the foundation. If you get this wrong, even the best idea in the world is just going to crumble. In this section, we're digging into the two absolute non-negotiable pillars you've got to get right before you even think about writing a single line of code.
First up, the absolute bedrock, the core problem. And look, we're not talking about some minor inconvenience here. This needs to be a real hair-on-fire problem that people are desperate to solve. So many startups fail because they build a really cool solution for a problem nobody actually has. If you can't define this clearly, you're pretty much building on sand.
And this is exactly why that matters so much. When you have a crystal clear problem, your product suddenly has this laser focus and becomes a compass for your entire development process, you know? It makes sure every feature you build is there for a reason, to actually solve the customer's problem, not just because it's a cool piece of tech.
Okay, so you found a real painful problem that needs solving. That's huge. But that brings up the next critical question. Who exactly is going to solve it? And this leads us to the second pillar of our foundation, the team. And this table here illustrates the ideal setup perfectly. The most successful founding teams often have this kind of trifecta of skills. You need the technical expert who can, actually build the thing. You need the business strategist who can figure out the market and get funding. And then you need the product thinker, who's like the bridge, making sure what gets built is exactly what users need. When those three are aligned, man, decisions get made way faster and way better.
All right, so the foundation is poured. Now it's time to actually build. And in the startup world, speed is everything. This next section is all about the engine you need to execute quickly. How do you get from a plan to a product without getting totally bogged down? The answer is pretty simple. You build lean and you build fast.
I mean, this comparison really says it all. The old-school, rigid corporate hierarchy is basically the enemy of a startup. It's slow, it's siloed, and it's resistant to change. The lean structure, on the other hand, is built for speed. You have small, flexible teams that can experiment, iterate, and communicate with an agility that big companies can only dream of.
Now, a huge part of building lean is the MVP, or minimum viable product. But let's bust a myth right now. MVP doesn't mean bad product. Think of it more like a scientific instrument. Its only job is to test your biggest assumption with the least amount of effort. The goal isn't to sell, the goal is to learn from real users as fast as humanly possible. And this whole process is a loop, not a straight line. You build the MVP, you get it into the hands of real people. To see if your ideas hold up, you listen really carefully to their feedback, and then you iterate and make it better. This cycle is what stops you from spending years building something nobody actually wants.
Now for our final section. You've got your foundation, and you have an engine that lets you execute fast. But how do you make sure your creation doesn't just collapse under its own weight as it grows? This is all about designing a structure that can scale for the long haul.
See, as you grow, you have to reinforce your structure. These three pillars right here are what separate the startups that scale from the ones that flame out. You've got to have strict financial discipline to manage your cash. You need a solid legal groundwork to avoid disasters later on. And this is so important, you have to keep that culture of experimentation alive. Success can make you slow. These systems keep you agile.
So the key takeaway is this. The goal isn't just to build a product. It's to build a learning machine. The entire mindset has to be about learning, adapting, and putting scalable systems in place from the very beginning. Thinking about scale isn't something you worry about later, it has to be part of the blueprint from day one.
This quote really just ties it all together so well. Success isn't about any one single thing. It's the combination of being smart with your money, getting your legal stuff in order, and holding on to that culture of experimentation. That's what creates a real path to long-term growth. And that really brings us to the end. We've laid out the problem, the team, the process, and the principles for scale. The architectural blueprint is right here. It's ready to go. So the only question left is, what will you build?